What happens when a young congresswoman challenges the President of the United States on live television and refuses to back down? Jasmine Crockett just showed America the answer. The chamber was already tense, but no one expected the next few minutes to shift the entire evening. Cameras rolled, lights glared, and millions watched, expecting a dull back and forth. Instead, they witnessed a moment that would dominate conversations at dinner tables, in group chats, and across news channels for days. Representative Jasmine Crockett adjusted her microphone. Her voice was steady, serious, and commanding. Holding up a stack of papers, she said, "Mr. President, these records link your family to undeclared overseas accounts." Silence fell. The room shifted. Eyes darted, whispers spread, before the camera cut back to Donald Trump at the long table, his lawyers and aides behind him. His jaw tightened, but he quickly snapped, "That's a lie, an absolute lie. You people are pathetic. You'll do anything to smear my family." Crockett didn't flinch. Looking at the papers, then back at him, she replied, "These aren't my words, sir. They come from a whistleblower inside a financial institution. Dates, account numbers, wire transfers, all tied to Trump family businesses and foreign deals." The chamber stirred louder this time. Shuffling feet, scribbled notes, muffled gasps. Trump leaned forward, slamming his palms on the table. "You think you can come after me with trash like that? This is disgraceful. I should walk out right now." His anger built with each word, his face filling the frame. But Crockett stayed calm. "You can walk out if you'd like," she said, evenly. "But the American people are watching, and they deserve answers." That single line shot through living rooms nationwide. Forks paused mid-air at dinner tables. College students whispered to roommates. Retirees raised their eyebrows in disbelief. It was rare to see anyone go toe-to-toe with the president like this and live. Trump slammed the table again. "This is a witch hunt, the biggest in history. You're all complicit. And you," he pointed at Crockett, "you're nothing but a fraud." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Crockett let the words hang, then answered firmly, "You can call me names, Mr. President, but that won't change what's in these documents." Her calmness against his fury was impossible to ignore. Within seconds, social media erupted. Clips spread across Twitter. Captions screamed hidden accounts, and TikTok edits appeared with dramatic music. Clips of Crockett's line, "The American people deserve answers," looped non-stop online. Inside the hearing room, a few lawmakers shifted uneasily, unsure whether to step in or let the confrontation unfold. One senator whispered to another, "This is going to blow up everywhere." And it already was. Back in the chamber, Crockett pressed forward. She pulled a single page from the stack and read aloud. "On March 12, 2018, a wire transfer of $2.4 million was sent from an account in Zurich to Trump International Holdings. The account holder, Donald J. Trump Jr." She placed the page down deliberately. "This is just one example." Trump's face flushed red, his voice rising. "Fake, all fake. My family built an empire. You're jealous. You hate us because we win." Crockett's reply was firm but calm. "No one hates success, sir, but Americans shouldn't have to wonder if their president's choices are influenced by secret deals overseas." The chamber went silent. Reporters scribbled, cameras zoomed in, and an aide in the back row buried her face in her hands. For viewers, the clash was electric, raw, unfiltered, impossible to ignore. Crockett was precise and steady. Trump was fiery and restless. The contrast was striking, and people watching knew they were seeing a political moment that would dominate headlines for days. But the bigger question wasn't what had just happened. It was what came next. Hours earlier, in a quiet D.C. office, Jasmine Crockett sat with her chief of staff, Adrian Whitmore. A pot of coffee cooled on the table, untouched. They weren't running on caffeine. They were running on adrenaline. "Are you sure we're ready for this?" Adrian asked, eyes fixed on the thick folder of documents. Jasmine leaned back, steady. "We don't get a second chance. These records are airtight. I had 3 independent experts check every transfer, every name, every signature. It all matches." Adrian adjusted his glasses. "And you trust the source?" Jasmine exhaled, half smiling. "I don't know if I trust the source, but I trust what they gave me. The details are too precise to fake. Even if half of it's true, it'll shake the entire country." Weeks earlier, the package had arrived in her Dallas office. A plain brown envelope marked only with 4 words: "For the people." Inside were photocopied bank slips, each linking Trump family members to accounts in Zurich, Dubai, and Hong Kong. At first, her team thought it was another hoax. Politicians get strange packages all the time. Anonymous letters, wild claims, conspiracy scraps. But this felt different. When analysts ran the numbers, the transfers matched real account structures. Even the routing numbers tied back to legitimate banks. These weren't random figures typed on a page. They were real. Further checks tied the names to shell companies, and Crockett knew she was holding a political grenade. She glanced at Adrian. "You know what this means. Once it's out, there's no putting the lid back on. He's going to come at you with everything he's got," Adrian said. "Ready," Jasmine answered with a slight smile. "I've been waiting for this since he first tried to shame me on live TV. Someone has to hold him accountable. If not me, who?" A clock ticked in the quiet office, the sound marking how heavy the night ahead felt. By the time they entered the chamber, the energy was electric. Reporters filled the aisles, cameras found their angles, and whispers spread about what might happen. Most expected a routine hearing, some heated lines, then adjournment. No one thought Crockett would place a stack of documents that could directly implicate the president's family. As she sat, Representative Lowell Jennings leaned over. "You're really doing this?" Jasmine didn't look back. "This isn't about me, Lowell. It's about the truth. People deserve to know." When she laid the papers on the desk, the mood changed. Lawmakers straightened, others exchanged looks that said everything. From her first sentence, the document spoke louder than any accusation. Wire transfers, shell companies, family names typed in black ink, tied to accounts never declared to the public. Journalists in the press gallery scrambled, phones buzzing, as updates flew to editors. Crockett presents whistleblower evidence. One reporter could barely keep his voice steady as he recorded. The TV feed captured it all. The firmness in Crockett's voice, the nervous shifting of lawmakers, the deepening red in Trump's face as the facts landed. What viewers at home couldn't see was the backstory. The anonymous envelope, the weeks of verification, the deliberate decision to reveal it when cameras were guaranteed to be rolling. What made the moment electric wasn't just the evidence. It was Crockett's unshakable delivery. No stumbles, no wavering, steady eye contact that said, "I'm not backing down." Back in the West Wing, chaos erupted. Aides drafted statements, lawyers barked into phones, and advisors demanded to know, who leaked this? In the chamber, Crockett finished with a line that would reverberate across the country. "Mr. President, call it fake all you want. Numbers don't lie, and neither do records." Trump refused to let her have the last word. As the papers landed, the chamber seemed to tilt. Reporters leaned in, staffers whispered, and Trump's disbelief curdled into fury. Gripping the table, he thundered, "This is a disgrace. Forged papers. Garbage. You Democrats will stop at nothing to smear my family." A low rumble moved through the room. Crockett stayed quiet, letting Trump's words hang before she answered. Her voice never rose. She didn't need it to. "Sir, these documents were verified by independent experts. They're not rumors, not gossip. They're records from real banks, with your family's names attached." Trump jabbed a finger at her. "You're lying. You wave papers around like they mean something, but you don't know the first thing about business. My incredible family has done nothing but build, succeed, and create jobs. That's all we do. And you, he paused, voice climbing. You're trying to destroy us because you can't stand it. The back and forth grew sharper. Some lawmakers tried to interject, but neither side gave an inch. Crockett leaned forward, steady. This isn't about destroying you. It's about accountability. Presidents can't hide secret deals overseas while making decisions for the American people. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Across the country, households froze, eyes locked on the screen. In Kansas City, a retired factory worker muttered, "She's holding her own." In El Paso, college students crowded around a phone. One whispered, "He looks like he's losing it." Trump's lawyers whispered in his ear, but he waved them off, too deep to retreat. "You're a phony. You have no proof. This is the biggest witch hunt yet. And you, Representative Crockett, you're nothing but a fraud chasing 15 minutes of fame." Crockett lifted a page, tilting it toward the cameras. "This isn't fame. This is evidence the American people can read for themselves." "Do you deny this account exists?" Trump slapped the table. "I deny everything. It's fake, every word. This kind of garbage weakens our country. You're hurting America right now." The clash had become a spectacle. One side calm, the other erupting. Social media lit up instantly. Hashtags like Jasmine Crockett vs. Trump and hidden accounts shot up the trending list. News anchors cut into regular programming to replay the footage, calling it the most explosive moment yet. But inside the chamber, Crockett stayed composed. Leaning into her mic, she said, "What hurts America is corruption. What hurts America is when leaders think they're above the truth." The silence after that line was razor sharp. Trump opened his mouth, ready to fire back, but even he hesitated. His eyes darted, searching for backup. Instead, another representative called out, "Let her speak, Mr. President." A few nods and murmurs followed. Trump's face burned red. "This is a circus, a disgraceful circus," he snapped. Crockett slid out another page. "If it's a circus, then the tent was built by your family's hidden money. Here's another transfer, $5.8 million routed through an account in Dubai. Recipient, Ivanka Trump's holding company. Would you like me to keep going, sir?" The chamber erupted. Lawmakers shouting, reporters rushing to file updates, the room in chaos. The gallery gasped, and Trump's voice rose above the noise, raw with fury. "You're a liar, a disgusting liar." Crockett's reply cut through, sharp and steady. "Call me whatever you want, but these documents speak louder than your words." That line was already flooding social media before the hearing ended, hailed by commentators as the quote of the night, a perfect snapshot of fact colliding with fury. Trump slammed the table again, his voice trembling. "You'll regret this. You have no idea who you're dealing with." Crockett locked eyes with him. "No, sir, it's you who has no idea who you're dealing with. The truth isn't afraid of you." The chamber exploded once more while households across the country sat glued to their screens. This wasn't just a hearing anymore. It felt historic, a clash that would be remembered. And yet, the real storm was only beginning. The chamber had become a battlefield. Every word, every gesture, every breath was broadcast live into American homes. What began as a sharp exchange was unraveling into something raw and bigger than the room itself. Crockett pulled another highlighted page from her folder. "Here's a document from May 2020, a transfer of nearly $7 million routed through a Hong Kong account directly into a company partially owned by Eric Trump. Would you like to dispute this as well, Mr. President?" Trump's chair screeched as he stood, pointing across the chamber, his voice almost shouting. "I don't need to dispute lies. This is fake and you know it. You're inventing a scandal. You are disrespecting the presidency." Crockett rose, too, not to shout, but to claim the space. Her voice was firm and deliberate. What disrespects the presidency is using it to cover your family's secret business deals. That's not leadership. That's corruption, gasps echoed. Lawmakers whispered furiously. Cameras split the screen. Crockett upright, papers in hand, composed. Trump red-faced, jabbing the air with his finger. Corruption, Trump barked. My family has sacrificed everything for this country. We didn't have to run. We didn't have to suffer through this. We did it because we love America. And you throw mud because you can't stand our success. You're a disgrace. Crockett didn't blink. If loving America means hiding millions in secret accounts overseas, then you and I have very different definitions of sacrifice. The chamber erupted. Outrage, applause, nervous chatter. The chairman's gavel pounded for order, but the clash had taken on a life of its own. At the far end of the room, Senator Gregory Fields leaned toward a colleague. "This is history," Senator Gregory Fields muttered to a colleague. "People will remember this 20 years from now." His colleague nodded, eyes fixed on the scene unfolding. Trump slammed his hand on the table again. "You're a liar. The whole world knows you're a liar. The people will see through this sham. They'll see through you." Crockett stepped closer, her voice sharp but steady. "If standing up for truth makes me a liar in your eyes, I can live with that. What I can't live with is watching a president treat this country like his personal ATM." The words cracked across the chamber like thunder. Reporters scrambled, shoving recorders and phones forward to capture every word. Trump gestured wildly toward his aides. "We're done here. This is over." But Crockett shot back. "No, Mr. President, this isn't over. It's just beginning." The two locked eyes, the cameras catching every second. Across the country, people leaned in closer, sensing the gravity of the moment. In Iowa, a high school history teacher whispered to her husband, "This is going in the textbooks." In Oregon, a teenager murmured to her father, "She's not scared of him. She's actually not scared." Back in the chamber, Trump broke the silence with a roar. "You're doing this for ratings, for fame. You don't care about the truth." Crockett's reply was instant. "If ratings come from telling the truth, then maybe the problem isn't me. Maybe it's the truth itself." The gallery gasped again, some even clapping before security hushed them. The contrast was undeniable. Crockett calm and composed, Trump red-faced and raging. His fury wasn't winning sympathy. It was highlighting the divide. No press release could undo what millions were watching live. One of Trump's aides leaned in to whisper, but he shoved them away, glaring at Crockett. "You will regret this. You and everyone behind this stunt. You think you can touch me? You're wrong." Crockett raised her voice just enough to slice through the noise. "I don't need to touch you, Mr. President. The truth already has." The chamber fell silent. For the first time that night, Trump didn't have an immediate reply. His lips tightened, his face burned red, but the words never came. Across America, viewers felt the shift. This wasn't just another clash, it was a turning point. Crockett hadn't shouted, hadn't insulted, hadn't wavered. She stood, spoke, and stayed firm. And it showed. But outside the chamber, the reaction was only beginning. In living rooms, diners, and barbershops, people felt it in their gut. Something raw, unscripted, impossible to ignore. In a modest home in Toledo, Ohio, 72-year-old Harold Briggs sat in his recliner, remote in hand, eyes locked on the screen. His granddaughter Mia, a high school sophomore, sat cross-legged on the floor. Almost whispering, she asked, "Grandpa, is she really calling him out like that?" Harold chuckled softly, shaking his head. "She sure is. Haven't seen anyone stand their ground like that in a long time." Mia's eyes flicked back to the screen. Crockett stood calm and steady while Trump seethed, his voice booming as he called her a liar. "She's not scared," Mia whispered, almost to herself. "She's actually not scared." Across the country in Fresno, California, a group of college students crowded around a laptop in their dorm lounge. Popcorn spilled from a bowl as they reacted to every heated exchange. "Yo, she just hit him with the receipts," one shouted, pointing at the screen as Crockett read another wire transfer. Another leaned forward, rewinding the live stream. "Play that again, right there. If standing up for truth makes me a liar." "Man, that line is everywhere already." Their phones buzzed non-stop. Twitter and TikTok flooded with clips and memes. Hashtags like Crockett vs Trump, hidden accounts, and Truth vs Power shot to the top of trending lists. One TikTok edit looped Trump's furious finger-pointing beside Crockett, calmly flipping through papers, captioned, "When rage meets receipts." It racked up over 3 million views in under an hour. In Birmingham, Alabama, a late-night diner turned all its TVs to the hearing. The usual chatter went quiet as customers froze mid-bite, watching. A waitress leaned toward a co-worker and whispered, "She's going toe-to-toe with him like nobody else has." Back in the chamber, every pause, every gasp, every sharp reply was magnified by the cameras. Crockett's composure against Trump's explosive anger played like a split screen of two Americas, one demanding answers, the other refusing to give them. News networks cut into regular programming. On MSNBC, a commentator leaned forward, almost breathless. "What we're seeing is extraordinary. Representative Crockett is unflinching, and the president is visibly rattled. This isn't just a hearing, it's a spectacle that could reshape public opinion." On Fox News, anchors scrambled to spin it differently, calling the documents unverified and accusing Crockett of grandstanding. But even there, the raw footage kept looping. Trump pounding the table, Crockett refusing to back down. The images spoke louder than the talking heads. At a bar in Omaha, Nebraska, the hearing dominated the room. Patrons leaned over their beers, gesturing at the TV. A retired Marine muttered, "Say what you want about politics, but she's got guts. He's losing it right in front of us." The clash wasn't just being watched, it was being lived. From truck stops in Arkansas to living rooms in Minnesota, even people who rarely followed politics found themselves glued to the screen. In Phoenix, Arizona, a single mother named Angela sat with her 2 teenage sons. She turned to them and said, "This is what it looks like when you don't let someone bully you into silence." Her boys nodded, wide-eyed, absorbing the moment. And in living rooms like hers across the country, the clash between Crockett and Trump. It stopped being just politics. People saw courage, composure, and what happens when someone speaks the truth to power. But in the White House, Trump wasn't done. While the country reacted, his aides were already planning a counterattack. The hearing still played on TV, but inside the West Wing phones buzzed non-stop. Staff rushed down halls, and the Situation Room turned into a damage control center. In a corner office, senior advisor Randall Pierce slammed his fist on a desk. "How did she get those documents? Someone leaked. Plug the hole or this spirals." Sweat beaded on his forehead as aides scribbled orders. Press Secretary Dana Markham snapped into action, phone pressed to her ear. "Get statements ready in 20 minutes. Spin this as partisan theater. Do whatever it takes." She hung up and muttered, worried about what else Crockett might have. Outside, lobbyists texted, journalists chased sources, and lawyers whispered about subpoenas. Jasmine Crockett's name was everywhere. Back down the hall, she sat with Adrian Whitmore, coffee cooling and notes spread out. Trump's voice filtered through the walls, but Crockett kept her focus. "He's losing control," Adrian said softly. "The angrier he gets, the stronger you look. But be careful. If he feels cornered, he'll come for you." Jasmine met his gaze. "I know. This isn't about me. It's about the truth. If he wants to swing, let him swing. I'll stand here with the facts." In the Oval Office, Trump paced behind his desk during a short recess, tie loose and face flushed. He threw a stack of briefs to the floor. She's trying to humiliate me on live TV. I won't let her win. One lawyer, Michael Renner, picked up the papers and advised restraint. Sir, attacking will only boost her. We need to discredit the documents, call them forgeries, question motives. Trump cut him off. Restraint? Are you kidding? She accused my family of corruption. I built an empire by fighting. I'll fight her too. Another advisor urged concern about public perception. Trump slapped the desk. Forget perception. People love me because I don't back down. I'm not backing down to her. Back at Crockett's office, allies gathered. Representative Lowell Jennings slipped in quietly and closed the door. You realize what you just did in there, he said. Half the country's cheering you. The other half is sharpening knives. You've made yourself the story, Jennings said. Crockett didn't look up from her notes. Good. Because the story isn't about me. It's about accountability. If people want to make it about me, fine. I'm not moving off the truth. Adrian leaned back, exhaling. They're going to hit back hard. Smears, lies, maybe worse. Are you ready for that? Jasmine finally met his eyes. Her voice was calm. I didn't run for Congress to play it safe. If I wanted safe, I'd have stayed in Dallas practicing law. I came here to fight for the people who never get a voice. If that means standing toe-to-toe with him, then so be it. The room fell, silent, her words heavy. Then Adrian managed a faint grin. You know the country's seeing that tonight. They're seeing it with their own eyes. Outside, media vans lined the streets around the Capitol. Anchors stood in the cold, their breath visible as they delivered breaking updates. The president clashed with Representative Jasmine Crockett in one of the most explosive hearings in recent memory. Reactions poured in nationwide, with some calling it a turning point in the administration. Even late-night hosts were already drafting monologues. One writer texted, "This is gold. Tomorrow every punchline starts with hidden accounts." Inside the White House, though, the mood was grim. Trump sat in silence, staring at the television as his own outbursts replayed. For several seconds he didn't speak, until finally muttering, "She thinks she beat me. She hasn't seen anything yet." But the hearing was only the beginning. The real fight was still to come. By sunrise, the nation was buzzing with fallout. What began as a late-night hearing had become front-page news. Footage of Jasmine Crockett standing firm against Trump's fury looped on every morning show, plastered across every major network. The Dallas Morning News ran a photo of her holding the documents high, captioned, "Records, Clash, Crockett confronts President." The Boston Globe declared, "Unflinching Congresswoman challenges Trump on hidden family accounts." In an Omaha coffee shop, TVs replayed the clash. Customers leaned forward, listening as Crockett's voice rang out, "Presidents don't get to hide secret deals overseas while making decisions for the American people." Murmurs of approval filled the room. A man in his 60s shook his head and said to the barista, "I've seen hearings before. This one's different. This one's going to stick." Across the country, in Atlanta suburbs, Indiana towns, schools, and offices, the conversation was the same. Clips dominated social media, showing Crockett's calm against Trump's furious, desk pounding. One viral tweet read, "She never raised her voice once, and he lost his mind." That's power. Back in Washington, reporters swarmed Capitol Hill, cameras waiting outside Crockett's office. She didn't stop for questions, but the image of her walking past, shoulders straight, head high, became its own symbol of defiance. Inside, Adrian Whitmore sat with her, bleary-eyed but buzzing. The blinds muted the morning sunlight as he scrolled through his phone, shaking his head. "Jazz, look at this. You're everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, even Facebook. People are quoting you like you're running for president." Crockett sipped her coffee, her voice even. "That's not what this is about. It's about the truth," Crockett said. "If the truth gets attention, fine. But I'm not doing this for hashtags. Adrian chuckled, then leaned forward. You know he's going to retaliate. He never lets things go. He'll hit back with everything he's got. Crockett set her cup down, folding her hands. Then let him. I didn't walk into that chamber expecting applause. He can throw whatever he wants. I'll keep bringing the facts. Meanwhile, Trump's camp launched its counterattack. On Fox News, loyal commentators dismissed the documents as unverified foreign gossip and painted Crockett as a radical showboat. Trump himself called into a morning show, voice still burning with anger. She's a nobody, a total nobody, trying to make a name by lying about my family. It's all fake. Everybody knows it's fake, but the footage told its own story. Americans saw the contrast. Crockett calm, steady, factual. Trump shouting, pounding, pointing. No amount of spin could erase that image. Across the country, people talked less about politics and more about courage. In Birmingham, a barber leaned over his client's chair. Man, I don't care who you voted for. That woman had guts. Looked him straight in the eye and didn't budge. In Milwaukee, a teacher paused her civics class to play the clip. Students sat silent during Crockett's lines, then erupted, in whispers when Trump exploded. The teacher shut it off and said, "That's why composure matters. Power doesn't always win. Patience does." Even in rural diners, where Trump's support ran deep, there was grudging respect. "I don't like her politics," a farmer admitted over breakfast, "but I'll give her this. She didn't blink." Back at Crockett's office, the calls poured in. Cable shows wanted her live. Magazines requested interviews. Universities asked her to speak. Her staff scrambled to keep up. Lowell Jennings leaned against her doorway. "You realize you just became a national figure, right?" Crockett shook her head, almost amused. "Lowell, I didn't sign up to be a celebrity. I signed up to serve. If this attention helps expose corruption, I'll use it. But I won't get lost in it." Jennings smirked. "Tell that to the 20 reporters camped outside." The chamber may have gone quiet, but in streets, offices, and homes, the noise only grew louder. This wasn't just another spat. It felt like a cultural moment, one people would point back to when they talked about standing up to power. But Trump wasn't about to let that moment stand. By morning, the White House announced a surprise press conference. Reporters scrambled, sensing it wouldn't be routine. When the cameras rolled, Trump stepped up to the podium, looking tired but still brimming with fire. His tie hung loose, his hands gripped the lectern, and he wasted no time. What we saw last night was the biggest political hit job in American history. A disgusting stunt by a radical Democrat who hates success, hates family, and frankly hates America. Jasmine Crockett is a fraud, and her so-called evidence is fake. Total fake. Reporters erupted, shouting questions. "Mr. President, what about the wire transfers? What about the overseas accounts?" Trump raised his hand, cutting them off. "There are no accounts. None. These are fabricated documents, made up to make me look bad. They should be ashamed. And frankly, we're looking into lawsuits, big ones." Behind him, aides shifted nervously, whispering to each other. They knew the optics weren't helping. Trump's voice carried rage, but not reassurance. "The more," he repeated, "fake, the more it sounded like desperation." One bold reporter pressed harder. "Sir, do you deny that your family businesses received millions from overseas accounts?" a reporter asked. Trump leaned into the podium. "I deny everything," he shot back. "The American people are smart. They see through this. Nobody lies more than Democrats, especially Jasmine Crockett." But his team's attempt to seize the narrative failed. On social media, clips of Trump pounding the lectern were cut next to footage of Crockett calmly reading the documents, and the contrast only deepened. That afternoon, Crockett held a press availability, flanked by colleagues who were rallying around her. Dressed in a dark navy suit with her hair pinned back, She spoke with the same steady tone. "Last night I presented evidence. The president can shout and deflect, but numbers don't bend to anger. I didn't make up those transfers. They came from real banks. Americans deserve to know if their leaders are compromised." Questions came fast. Are you ready for retaliation? Do you expect consequences for the president? Crockett didn't speculate. "I'm here to do my job," she said. Transparency isn't optional in a democracy. It's our responsibility. If the president thinks attacking me will erase the truth, he's wrong. Networks ran her response beside Trump's denials, and commentators kept returning to the same point. She never raised her voice, yet every line landed harder than a scream. In a Wichita diner, a longtime Republican who'd voted his whole life stabbed his fork into a plate and said, "She looks like the adult in the room." Across the table, someone defended Trump. "He fights. That's why people love him." The debate played out in kitchens and bars everywhere. Some saw Crockett as a steady truth-teller, others saw Trump as a fighter who won't back down. Either way, the confrontation had snapped something open. It made people question, argue, and pay attention like they hadn't in years. Behind the scenes, Trump's advisors tried to steer him toward broader themes: jobs, the economy, foreign policy. But every appearance pulled him back to Crockett. Calling her a liar again and again only amplified her visibility. In Texas, supporters organized rallies, chanted her name, and printed her lines on T-shirts. Memes and Instagram posts spread her calm stare with the caption, "The American people deserve answers." Adrian Whitmore watched the surge of attention on his phone and told her, "Jazz, you've become a symbol overnight." She replied quietly, "Symbols fade. What matters is whether the truth sticks. That's what we have to fight for." Adrian grinned, shaking his head. "You talk like you're not in the middle of a political earthquake, but you are. And the ground's still shaking." Late that night in the Oval Office, Trump paced, furious that Crockett's words still led the headlines. Aides begged him to let it go. He clenched his fists. "She thinks she's one of us? I'll bury her in the press tomorrow." We go harder. But the harder he pushed, the more fragile his defenses looked. By the third day after the hearing, the story had seeped into nearly every corner of American life. What began as a fiery clash between Jasmine Crockett and Donald Trump had become a national conversation about accountability, truth, and leadership. Morning shows replayed the footage on loop. Late-night comedians filled monologues with punchlines about hidden accounts. Talk radio split down the middle, half defending Trump, half praising Crockett. Inside Congress, the ripple effect was just as strong. Lawmakers who once kept quiet about Trump's finances now raised questions. Committee rooms buzzed with talk of subpoenas, expert testimony, and deeper investigations. For the first time, Crockett wasn't standing alone. In her office, Adrian's, Whitmore spread out newspapers across the table, headlines stretching coast to coast. Crockett stands tall. Trump explodes. Truth versus power. His eyes widened. "Jazz, this isn't just a story anymore. It's a movement." Crockett rubbed her temples. Fatigue etched on her face. "Movements are dangerous, Adrian. They bring passion, but also enemies. He won't stop until he finds a way to silence this." Adrian leaned in, lowering his voice. "But don't you see? He's already lost control of the narrative. Every time he shouts, you look calmer. Every time he denies, the documents look stronger. This isn't his arena anymore. It's yours." Crockett stared out the window at reporters camped on the Capitol steps, cameras waiting. "I didn't come here for the spotlight. I came here to serve. If this is what service looks like right now, I'll take it, but I won't let it change me." Meanwhile, Trump doubled down at a rally in Tulsa. Before thousands, his voice thundered through the arena. "That woman, Crockett, she's a liar. She's working with crooked Democrats to smear my family." They hate me because I've done more for America than anyone else, and we're not going to let her get away with it." The crowd roared, waving signs, chanting his name. Yet beneath, the cheers lingered something sharper, frustration, even recognition, that the hearing had struck a nerve. That night, cable news dissected the rally clips. Analysts noted how Trump mentioned Crockett over a dozen times in one speech. "He can't let go of her," one remarked. "And the more he says her name, the more people remember hers instead of his." Back in Dallas, supporters gathered at a community center. Dozens carried hand-drawn posters with Crockett's quotes. A school principal stood up and said, "She showed us you can face power head-on without shouting, without backing down. That's leadership." The room erupted in applause, pride carrying through every voice. Crockett wasn't just their representative anymore. She was becoming a national figure. Inside the White House, panic deepened. Advisors clashed over strategy. Some begged Trump to stop mentioning her, warning he was fueling her rise. Others demanded he crush her publicly before the story grew. Trump paced the Oval Office, barking, "No! If I don't hit back, I look weak. And I don't do weak." But outside those walls, the shift was already happening. Polls showed Crockett's recognition spiking. Editorials praised her courage. College students posted videos explaining why her words resonated. Even late-night monologues, though wrapped in jokes, praised her composure as rare in modern politics. At a family dinner in St. Louis, a father leaned toward his teenage daughter. "Remember this," he said. "Remember how she looked him in the eye and didn't back down. That's history you're watching." For Jasmine Crockett, the attention was overwhelming. The phone in her office rang non-stop. Interview requests piled up, and allies urged her to ride the momentum. But in a late-night talk with Adrian, she reminded him, "This isn't about fame. It's about proving that truth still matters, even when it's hard. If I lose sight of that, then I'm no better than him." What had unfolded in Washington may have looked like spectacle, but at its heart, it was simple. One woman, armed with documents, refusing to bend before the most powerful man in the country. And while the final chapter hadn't been written yet, one question lingered. Who would the people believe in the long run? By week's end, the answer was becoming clearer. The clash wasn't just another fight in Washington, it was a defining moment. From Iowa farms to California campuses, people recalled it as the night someone stood up to the president and didn't flinch. The images were everywhere. Crockett steady, holding highlighted papers. Trump flushed, pounding the table, his voice cracking. Those few minutes live on camera left an impression no rally or press conference could erase. Inside Congress, lawmakers debated next steps, subpoenas, bank records, the possibility of more whistleblowers. For the first time in years, the president looked rattled, and the person who shook him was a freshman representative from Texas. Back in her district, Crockett returned to find supporters outside her office. Some brought flowers, others just wanted to shake her hand. A grandmother, holding her grandson's hand, approached with tears in her eyes. "My boy saw you on TV," she whispered. "He told me, 'Grandma, she's not scared of him.' That meant something to him. That meant something to me." Crockett knelt, meeting the boy's eyes. "It's not about being fearless," she told him. "It's about standing for the truth, even when it's hard. You can do that too." The boy nodded, squeezing his grandmother's hand tighter. Meanwhile, Trump kept railing against her, each insult only making her trend higher. His fury kept the story alive. Her composure kept earning respect. Even critics admitted she had shown grit. Teachers used the hearing as a lesson in civic courage. Pastors worked her words into sermons about standing firm. Parents told their children, "Don't be afraid to speak truth to power." The moment had grown beyond politics. It became a parable. The lesson was clear. Anger may be loud, but truth is steady. Shouting can fill a room, but calm facts can move a nation. Crockett never needed to match Trump's volume. She only needed to stand her ground and let the documents speak. Adrian put it best one night after the whirlwind of interviews. "You know what people saw, Jazz? They saw you didn't blink. When it counted, you didn't back down. That's going to echo longer than his shouting ever will." Crockett looked up from her notes, exhaustion in her eyes but something stronger beneath. "If it helps even one person believe the truth still matters," she said quietly, "then it was worth it." And across the country, people were beginning to believe. Not because she shouted louder, not because she sought the spotlight, but because she showed that even against overwhelming power, one steady voice could hold the line. For Trump, the clash would be remembered as a night of raw frustration, a glimpse of how fury can weaken instead of strengthen. For Crockett, it would be remembered as the moment she became a household name, not through ambition or fame, but by embodying accountability. When it mattered most, the confrontation revealed a simple truth. Power can demand obedience, but truth demands courage. And when courage stands its ground, even the loudest voices can't drown it out. If there's one takeaway, it's this: never underestimate composure. Don't mistake anger for strength, and never forget, once the truth is spoken, it can't be buried. Not by titles, not by money, not even by the presidency. This story shows that courage doesn't belong to the powerful. It belongs to anyone willing to stand for it. If Jasmine Crockett could do it on the biggest stage in America, then maybe we can find that same courage in our own lives, at work, in school, or even at home. Because truth doesn't need volume. It only needs someone willing to carry it. And if you've stayed with me through this story, you already know why it's important to keep sharing these moments. For more stories about courage, truth, and accountability, make sure to subscribe. You won't want to miss what's next.